That is until his 7th champion appears.
Yep. Prince Valar. But wait.
It's
not Prince Valar. My God, that's Baelor Breakspear's music.
That's Baelor Breakspear. His theme songs just start like da 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 da.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Pot of the Seven Kingdoms, a journey through the Dunk and Egg novellas by George R.R. Martin. I am Baki Balboa.
And I am Belok, and we are continuing our read of this super light, easy, happy story where nothing bad happens.
We've talked about how whimsical it is.
I was told I was getting a whimsical romp, and little whimsy to be had, but still a romp, I suppose, in some ways. So we are continuing. If you have the paperback version, very top of page 92 to the break on 101, ending on the sentence, "The gods will let us know," said Baelor Breakspear.
Yes.
And nothing bad will happen. Anyway.
I guess before we dive in, this section is there's something. One, it feels like maybe the closest George gets to a classic sort of fairy tale story, in that the noble knight who has been abandoned by, the king and his sons and all of those things, and left to potentially die, is suddenly surrounded by friends who will fight for him. And there was something like, George just doesn't do this sort of thing very often. So it was nice to read a section of this book where George did something like uplifting.
What happened was George had just read The Lord of the Rings, and the characters stood up and said, "And my bow, and my axe, and my sword." But he was like, "I can't do quite that," but he almost did that here.
He did the fellowship.
He did. He said, "It is the fellowship of Dunk."
Yeah.
And
the fellowship of the egg.
Fellowship of the egg. Excellent. Episode title right there.
Excellent. It's never gonna sound. I'm the Raymond Fosse way of egg puns.
Yes.
Or no, wait, Stefan. The Stefan Fosse way of egg.
Stefan's our apple guy. We get more apple puns in this next section.
Unfortunately,
we do. So our boy Dunk was given one night to get his boys together, and he needs 7 people total. Now he counts as one, and he is worried because he goes to the grounds the next morning. It's been cleared for this Battle of the Seven, and he's like, the small folk are going to hate me. Like, everyone's going to hate me because I'm fighting Arion. And the first thing he encounters is that is not true.
Not even a little.
Mm-hmm.
I did love this because he even says, "So many come to see me die." And then everybody's surrounding him, wishing him luck, embracing him, and it's all small folk that he encounters.
Yep.
And I think we've talked about this, where I think in a previous section it was becoming clear that sort of the terraces had taken his side, but it was never clear to him. And I think it's partially because Dunk has this streak that I resonate with completely, which is, my luck is not good. And he is completely taken aback that they are supportive of him, and it is a big boost to Dunk in realizing that no, these people haven't actually come to see you die because they saw you stand up for one of them.
Yep. He asks Steely Pate, why are they supporting me? What am I to them? And Steely Pate says, "A knight who remembered his vows." And George R. R. Martin said, "Do you get it? The meaning of knighthood."
and no, I love it because he's literally not. He hasn't taken the vows. He doesn't remember them, and we'll maybe get to that a little bit more later. he literally doesn't remember them, but he remembers they are supposed to mean and what they're supposed to represent, and in his actions upheld them. Um, and yeah, the people are almost to a person like rooting for him, because I think likely, and we'll get more onto this in themes, but I think it's likely that many of the people in the crowd have been taken advantage of by a noble person outside of just the societal ways that they are being taken advantage of, quite literally. But I'm sure all of them have a story of someone maybe not paying their fair share for their goods or services. Like,
definitely. And what I think interesting here too is Dunk thinks initially, oh, so many people have come to watch me die. Then he realizes they're on his side, which means so many people have come to maybe watch Arion die.
Yeah.
Maybe a bunch of these people are like, blood purity is bullshit, and I would like to see this little fucker get his head smashed in. Let's go see what happens.
I would like to see it. That's
it would be good. It would be good for my eyes to see. Yes. Can't miss this shit. Gotta go.
And it is so Dunk is sort of going into this completely blind, in that it was Egg and Raymond Fossaway who went off on the little journey to gather his companions, like to fight in this. So Dunk doesn't really know. He's expecting, I think, to show up to nothing, where nobody is going to take his side. Why would anyone, basically? And the good news is that when he shows up, Egg and Raymond have actually done quite a magnificent job.
Such a good job. Oh my God. Okay, so they have Robin Riesling or Riesling? I think probably Riesling.
Yeah.
Who I don't recall. Was he was in the joust earlier, I think.
Yeah, I believe he was in the joust. Not remarkably.
But he was there.
It's fair to say, yeah.
Yeah. Humphrey Beesbury, my boy.
Yep.
Who I'm sure will come out of this fine. And Sir Humphrey Harding.
Yep.
Riding. So if you remember, Humphrey Harding is the one that Arion attacked dishonorably during the joust. That then they took away Arion's blood red courser, his horse, and gave it to Humphrey Harding. Yep. Humphrey Harding, whose leg is broken, comes to defend Dunk, riding the horse he got from Arion.
Yep.
And he's like, look, I can't walk, but as long as I stay on my horse, I'm good.
Yeah.
Which is so badass.
He drops back to back. He drops unreal, like, badass lines of Dunk says to them, sirs, I am in your debt. And Humphrey Harding says the debt is Arion's and we mean to collect it.
Yes. Get him. Get him. Damn.
And then yeah, it's like, I heard your leg was broken. He's like, you heard the truth. I cannot walk, but so long as I can sit a horse, I can fight. And these two are pretty big gets in terms of just like skill, because we saw the Battle of the Humphreys earlier on was these two facing off, and it went like 14 rounds or whatever. And Humphrey Harding had been, up until that point, basically beating everybody that had gotten in front of him. So Humphrey Beesbury, no slouch himself. And basically, there is a little bit of Raymond Fossaway, like, knew how to get people to join, because he's like, I kind of figured Humphrey Harding would want another shot at Arion. Like,
and it turns out the Humphreys are brothers by marriage.
Yes.
So they came to each other's defense. And I'm like, that's cool. Awesome. And I think there's probably some reflection too of like the true knighthood amongst them as well. Like they saw what Arion did, and they're like, fuck this guy. I don't care that he's a prince.
Yeah.
Like that was shitty. Like all of his actions, shitty. Let's beat him up. You know?
Yeah.
True knighthood.
Exactly.
And then we get another addition to our team. The Laughing Storm comes.
This is larger than life. Like this entrance is so crazy, because it's he really is, again, strong characterization from George, but just like he is who he is in every single one of these scenes. And I love this interaction. One, because Lionel is approaching it from such a like this. I mean, you thought I was gonna miss like the biggest fight
Yeah, he's
in
like,
the
this is
last
gonna
100
be
years.
so cool. Like,
Yeah.
I can't fucking sit out this shit. Are you kidding?
It's like I get to fight the Kingsguard and Maekar. Like this is gonna be wonderful.
Yeah.
And I just think it was really funny that Dunk assumes because Stefan Fossaway was talking so much about how he was going to go get the Laughing Storm when the Laughing Storm is there, Dunk assumes like, oh, and I have to like thank Sir Stefan for bringing you. And he's like, Sir Stefan? Like, who's that? He's like, no, your squire came and got me, like the boy Aegon. And he basically joined because Aegon pulled a prank on him.
Yeah. So he says, the boy Aegon, my own lad, tried to chase him off, but he slipped between his legs and turned a flagon of wine over my head. He laughed. There had not been a trial of 7 for more than 100 years. Do you know that? I was not about to miss a chance to fight the Kingsguard. Like, he basically was like, this kid dumped wine on me. Hilarious.
Yeah.
I'll come.
Good one. When do I need to be there?
Yeah.
It
and
is
it's kind of, I did want to comment on the fact that like because there is Prince Aegon backing Dunk at this point, there is somewhat of like a royal balance here. So it's kind of safe for these knights to join up because of Aegon. Because it's not just like a bunch of small folk and random knights from random places going against the crown. It's like the crown here is also split. So it's like, all right, this is kind of inter-Targaryen fighting. We're just joining up for fun. Like, it'll be fine. You know, everything will be okay.
Yeah. This is I really do love how the characterization of Lionel is like so purely Baratheon in many ways, but I think I talked about it in a previous episode that Lionel is what Robert kind of wanted to be.
Yeah.
Where just devil may care, laughing about everything, hitting people. Like that's just kind of his whole thing. And you know, Robert had the unfortunate you know, duty eventually of being king, which this Baratheon is not saddled with and not even really thinking about. He's purely there to have a good time.
Yep, exactly. And he's not even that burdened with the concept of fighting the crown.
No.
You know, which like we see a little bit later, some of the knights are hesitant and like, you know, we could talk about why. But
there is
like, Laughing Storm is like, that's cool.
There is maybe a little bit of a Fire and Blood thing here of a Baratheon particularly being comfortable fighting a Targaryen, in that it's like there is a little bit of equality, I guess, like seen between, you know, with Orys Baratheon's origins and everything, and these houses being so closely linked. Like
that's
maybe
a good
he felt
point.
like exceptionally comfortable fighting the Targaryens because he's like, we've been part of them for such a long time.
It is like a familial kind of thing. Like he's kind of part of it too. Yeah, actually, that's a really good point because the Baratheons, along with maybe the Valyrians, who we don't have at this point, are like a house that is historically so entwined with the Targaryens. Because like at this point, gosh, are they descendants of Jocelyn too? I mean, along with the original Orys. I'm not sure. I'd have to check my Targaryen family tree to see if these Targaryens are descendants of Jocelyn through anyway. They might be through Rhaenys. But yeah, I mean, there's been intermarriages between Targaryens and the Baratheons, and Aegon and Orys Baratheon originally were like super close friends. They were very close friends.
Yeah. Then we get the entrance of the other side.
Oh my goodness. The pomp, the circumstance. It's crazy.
Yeah.
They like some of the descriptions are wonderful.
Yeah. The Kingsguard trotting out of the river mist.
Like ghosts in their gleaming white enamel, long white cloaks trailing behind them.
Yeah.
We'll talk about them later.
And then the Targaryens, and he sees like this you know, 3 white knights, 3 black knights, and and it is a very like Dunk even thinks to himself that it's like kind of striking. But he recognizes that they also only have 6, which
And
is
this is where I got confused about the rules of a trial of 7, because I thought it had been implied earlier, and I must have just misremembered, that if it was like, if like one side had 7 and one side had 1, then it was just 7v1. Like I assumed it would be like that.
Yeah,
But that doesn't seem to be the
I think
rules.
they mention earlier, maybe it's Makar, I can't remember, but somebody says in the scene where they announce the trial by 7, I believe they say like basically if you can't find 7 people to fight for your cause, then you must be guilty.
Oh, see, someone said that, and I thought they were being like hyperbolic. I didn't think they were meaning like,
yeah.
literally these are the
Apparently
rules.
that's the
Apparently
rules.
that's literally the rules. Yeah.
It's like, nope, you get to, because I mean, you would think that allowing someone to fight 7v1, if they won, then obviously their cause was just.
Yeah, then the gods were clearly involved, as they are in all of these fights. Are you questioning whether or not the 7 are directly involved? And they're clearly directly involved in all these trials by combat.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And nobody who was ever evil won a trial by combat.
Not once.
Yeah.
I can't think of one very large one. No, what are you talking about? So then the cutest thing happens. Egg comes up and he's like, "Sir, it's time to put your armor on." And he gets to be Squire and, you know, give the armor to Dunk and get him all suited up. And so everyone's sort of getting ready for what's going on. And then who rolls up but our boy, Sir Stefan.
This is
top
10 anime betrayals.
Yes. Top 10 anime betrayals. Absolutely. I literally was reading this, and there was like in my head there was like music like you.
Yeah.
What? Oh. Zooms into the face. So Sir Stefan shows up, and Stefan Fossaway had been promising the night before to fight with Dunk, had been like, I'm going to go get all these people. He shows up alone. He would be their 7th, and he starts putting his armor on, and they're like, no, he would have been their 6th. No, I'm confused. What number would he have been?
He would have been 6.
He would have been 6.
Yeah.
So
they still would have needed one.
They still needed one. So Dunk's like, we need a friend. Like, did you bring a friend? And so Stefan's like, no, and actually, bye. I'm gonna go be number 7 to the other side. And everyone does a spit take all at once.
The way that this is introduced to is so shitty. Like, it's crazy the way that he does it, because he's like, no, you actually need 2 more. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah, I count 5. And he's like, yeah, and you're the 6th. He's like, no, I'm the 7th for them. It's
what a little shit.
It's so brutal. And Raymond snaps.
Yes.
Like, this was it for him. Yes. Basically he says, like, you told him to rely on you and you lied. Like, you're fighting for the other side. And he's like, did I? I'm sure I was being genuine at the time, or I'm sure I meant it, or something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure I was sincere at the time. Bring me my horse.
Yeah.
And Raymond's like, fuck off. He's like, get him yourself. If you think I wish any part of this, you're as thick as you are vile. And then we get more apple puns, more apple stuff. And Stefan's like, we're both apples from the same tree, and you are my squire. Have you forgotten your vows? And Raymond says, no. Have you forgotten yours? Whew.
Yeah.
Whew.
Get
him. Get him. And it seems like what happened was that Stefan was offered a lordship.
Yeah.
To fight on the other side.
Yeah. And this is where, you know, there had been the threat Daron had talked about of like, Arian's going to find 7. Like, don't worry about it. He'll pay him off if he needs to. What you don't consider is like, oh, it would be easy to go snag a Hedge Knight with a sack full of gold or whatever. But a sack full of gold is not going to buy a lord to go fight for, or a noble to go fight for you. you've got to come with something else. And he comes with a castle, basically.
And it's kind of genius because Arion almost makes it so that Dunk just has a forfeit.
Right.
By just sniping one of his guys.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And I don't know if it was Arion's idea or whose idea it was, but it was smart. So Stefan Fossaway trots away, and our boy Raymond turns right around and it's like, knight me. I'll do it. Make me a knight. I've never fought before. Yep. But this seems like a good time to start.
Yeah. And we get Raymond is like ready to go, but we get Dunk hesitating to knight somebody.
That's so weird. Why would that be? He must be concerned for his well-being.
Yeah. He's clearly concerned that Raymond is not going to be able to hold his own. Mm-hmm. And the way that this is written is like, it's so blatantly obvious now reading it, like where Dunk says, I should not, like stammering. And Raymond and Lionel Baratheon are both like, what are you talking about? You have to. Like, you don't have any choice. And Raymond asks, like, do you doubt my courage? And Dunk says, no, not that, but... And, like, trails off again. And it's, like, so obvious that he's, like, he feels guilty about, if I knight this guy, I am not actually knighting him. Like, it would be fake.
Is it like, does the fakeness continue? Like, if there's one fake knight that knights other knights, are those not knights? And then if they knight knights, are those like grand knights, not knights? You know what I mean?
Right,
like...
right. Like, it's a whole chain of unknighted knights.
This is like, remember that story a few years ago of there was like a priest who was baptizing people wrong?
Yeah.
And there was like thousands of babies that had been baptized incorrectly. Is this like that? Or like, would the 7 be like, it's okay? Like,
none of these knights were actually knighted. So yeah, he hesitates to do it. And from there, it's eventually Lionel Baratheon is like, okay, like, we're doing this.
Right.
Because for him, number one, I think he probably doesn't want to see this guy just get killed for no reason. But he's also intent on fighting in this trial by 7. So he doesn't care who else is on the team. Like, he is like, yes, we have to make up the numbers, because if this ends by forfeit, I'm going to be pissed.
Well, do you think Dunk doesn't want to knight him because he feels bad about not being a knight himself? Or do you think it's that he doesn't know the vows because he didn't go through them?
I think it's a little a column A, a little a column B.
That's what I think too. Yeah,
I don't think he knows the words, and I think it is even whatever a couple of pages ago with the like a knight who remembered his vows, and he literally doesn't know the words. Like, that's I really just love that idea.
The true meaning of knighthood.
He's not really sure, and I think he probably feels like a modicum of guilt if he. Like, if I knight this noble person when I'm not actually a knight, then I've somehow, like, profaned the office. When in reality, he's the only person, like, bringing any honor to it at all right now. So
exactly.
Him and Raymond Fossaway are, like, the two good knights. His team is strong. But anyways.
So the Laughing Storm ends up knighting him, and then Dunk has to ride off. And he's still one short. And he's like, what do we do? Like, where do we get somebody else? And then it's confirmed by Lord Ashford that if he doesn't have 7, he'll be declared guilty. And so then Dunk does this thing that, like, if they don't do this in the television show, I will riot. Yeah. I will cancel my HBO subscription.
Yeah.
Like,
no, this is
a
serious.
Threat, HBO. There's a bunch of knights there. So there's a bunch of people there that could easily join his team who have come to instead watch this happen. And Dunk basically rides in front of them and more or less calls them out.
Yeah.
And is like, certainly there is someone here who will stand with me.
Yeah.
He's asking, like, do any of you remember Sir Arlen Pennytree? Like, he fought alongside you. For some of you, he fought for you. He was wounded fighting for you. And there's all these descriptions of people looking away. So, like, he calls one person, he calls Manfred Dondarrion out, and, like, it says, the knight said something to the lady besides him, paying no heed. The Grey Lion examined his gloved hands, studiedly refusing to raise his eyes. This is like when you're in class and the teacher is, like, looking for a volunteer. And you're very suddenly like, this pencil is the most interesting. Look at this. You see this fucking pencil? This shit's great. That's what's happening. Dunk is like, come on, guys. You're all knights. You're like highborn. You could step into this role and do this, and it's the right thing to do. And everyone's just like, basically ignoring him, and they're like, yeah, definitely not.
Yeah.
And he asks some people specifically, he asks Sir Otho Bracken, and he says, my cause is just. And Sir Bracken says, that may be, but it is your cause, not mine. I know you not, boy.
Yep.
Like, okay, I'm sorry. I thought that the cause of all knights was justice, but fuck you then, man. So then Dunk has this beautiful section. I'll just read it. It says, heartsick, Dunk wheeled thunder and raced back and forth before the tears of pale, cold men. Despair made him shout, are there no true knights among you? Only silence answered. What a great call out that is.
Yeah.
And that better be on my screen.
Yeah. And it is like, it is an admission on page by these characters because no one answers. They aren't. Like not in the sense that Dunk is, right? In terms of upholding the virtues of what it means to be a knight. Like all of those people who sit in the crowd literally are not true knights in
really
that, so
I mean, like, they have a guy who's got one broken leg who's willing to fight. It's like, aren't you guys embarrassed by the fact that like you're sitting here eating your popcorn?
Yeah.
And like we got a broken leg guy who's braver than you, but they're protected by their class, right? Like they don't need to prove anything. And because Dunk is knight, but is still a hedge knight, they're able to kind of laugh him off and be like, oh, silly hedge knight. How dare you ask this kind of thing?
Yep.
That is until his 7th champion appears.
Yep. Prince Valar. But wait.
It's
not Prince Valar. My God, that's Baelor Breakspear.
That's Baelor Breakspear. His theme songs just start like da 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 da.
Just pyro going up, like big dragon flames going off like over the castle.
That's fantastic. It is Baelor Breakspear, the coolest dude to ever live and definitely continue living. He comes in and they think it's Prince Valar because he's wearing Valar's armor.
Right.
Because he didn't intend to fight in this tourney. But I like to think that Baelor was just like sitting with Lord Ashford, like watching this unfold.
Yeah.
And when he realized what was going on, he was like, okay, this was my recommendation. Yep. I have to go in there. I have to get involved in this and beat the shit out of my nephews, brothers, whatever, however they're related. I forget.
His nephews.
Yeah.
Yeah. And his brother. Maekar is his brother.
Yeah. It's too many. There's too many boy Targaryens in one room. I get confused. They're all the same. So yeah, Baelor Breakspear joins. It's the coolest fucking thing. Top 10 anime battles.
Yeah.
Just the entrance amazing. And love him. Love everything about him.
And Maekar actually does come out. He's like, you're seriously gonna fight for him? Like, he attacked my son. And Baelor just hits Maekar right between the eyes with, this man protected the weak, as every true knight must. Let the gods determine if he was right or wrong.
Yes. Love him.
This is Yeah, I mean, the reveal here is amazing. Like, the characterization of Baelor up to this point has obviously been that he is someone that, like, does not look down on Dunk for his station or, like, the fact that he is the heir to the throne, hand of the king, like, all this stuff. He's so many layers of society removed from someone like Dunk. And yet that never is an actual barrier for Baelor to treat Dunk with actual dignity. And that is the difference maker in what makes a good knight, essentially, is are you willing to look past your own privilege to take care of people who don't have it?
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think, and this kind of goes towards themes we could talk about more, but the behavior of Baelor Breakspear protecting Dunk in a role as a knight is parallels his role as a leader and protecting people as a leader fairly and justly, regardless of the classism of that's, of the veneer over everything. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic characterization. God damn it, George.
I know. I know. It's super duper strong. And Dunk sort of realizes, like, okay, this is my team.
He's like, we got it. It'll be great.
And it's Raymond Fossaway's turn to do apple puns, because he paints over the red on his apple to make it green. And says, I fear I am still not ripe, but better green than wormy.
Yes. Oh, more worms. Okay, we'll come back to worms. I'm haunted by worms. I just love the concept that, like, this kid gets knighted. He's about to go into this, like, once in a century, like, trial by 7, like, all of a sudden, no prep. And he's like, hold on, my fucking sigil, like, I need to change my amiibo is wrong. I need to go get it changed. Hold on.
Yeah.
And, like, that there is someone around, like, ready with paint that he could just be like, quick, painted green. Like, also, is this the origin of the difference in the Fossaways being red and green?
I believe so.
I think it is.
I believe this is it. Yeah, the green apple and the red
why
apple.
We like the green apple Fossaways. Yeah.
The only way.
Yeah.
Red apple Fossaways.
Fuck those guys.
No go. And this is where basically Baelor huddles the team up, because as much as Dunk is, the person who is the reason all of this is happening, Baelor is the one who has the experience and just his shit together, and everyone is obviously going to look to him for, like, okay, now what the fuck do we do?
Yeah, could you imagine Baelor Breakspear looking at Dunk and being like, what's the plan? Like,
any idea?
Like, hit them hard. I don't know.
Don't die.
So Baelor has a lot of competing motivations going on at this moment. He's joined Dunk because it's the right thing to do. He also kind of created the circumstance by suggesting trial by combat. But it is also, like, a lot of his family members on the other side. And he wants Dunk to win, but doesn't really want anyone to die in the process. And he knows the other side is using, like, real serious weapons, particularly starting with actual sharp point lances. Which is different from tourney lances that are not supposed to be able to kill you. That obviously there are accidents,
right? But
they're not, like, steel tipped or anything like that. So Baelor's like, here's the deal: they're going to use the sharp pointy sticks, but their sharp pointy sticks are short. They're only 8 foot. We're going to use tourney lances, which will break upon impact, but those are 12 foot. So we can hit them first, knock them off their horses, and then we don't have to worry about this lance shit, and we could just do some, like, rough and tumble tussling in the mud.
Right.
And that's the plan.
Yeah. And it's a good plan in the sense that, like, you can knock them out off their horse before they can touch you by 4 feet. And he is, you're, I think, very sharp to point out that to point out that he definitely does not want both sides charging with war lances, because multiple people will die in the opening round of this. Like, So he knows that he needs one side armed with the tourney lances so that more people are just knocked from their horse and less people are killed by the lances. And it will protect, like, I think there's probably like an unkind reading of this that would say, oh, well, Baelor is trying to get more of them killed by not using the war lances, but it is literally defending themselves better against the war lances by knocking the other side off of their horses.
Yeah, I mean, they are going against, like, Team Dunk is going against, like, very seasoned knights. Like 3 Kingsguard, a bunch of royal people. Like, they are outmatched skill-wise.
Yeah.
So, like, if you put them up against each other with both war lances, like, Team Dunk is going to fall. Like, just odds-wise.
Yeah.
So this is a better plan because it at least gives them a shot. And reduces and I mean, I think it would be, like, really bad if, like, I don't know, God forbid, like, in that first pass, Team Dunk gets really lucky and kills all of the Targaryens on the other side. Then Baelor Breakspear is going to look like a jackass standing on the side that just killed a bunch of his family, because then he'll be Kinslayer, right? So it's like, he's in a very precarious circumstance doing this. So I get it. I think it was a good decision ultimately.
And he knows something too about the other side, which is Maekar basically compelled the Kingsguard to fight for Aerion's side. It's just like he made them do it.
Yeah.
And their oaths essentially don't allow them to say no when defending a member of the royal family. That being said, they're not going to fight the heir to the Iron Throne.
Yeah.
Because their oaths essentially forbade them from doing that too. So he's like, I'm also going to nerf the Kingsguard because they won't fight me. They won't fight me. So
he's like, I'm gonna kite the Kingsguard away and like it'll be fine.
Yeah. So I will basically get them to stop fighting. And then if you can keep everybody else off of me long enough, then like we can knock the Kingsguard out and then focus on the rest. And Lionel Baratheon of all people is like, is that chivalrous? He's like, the gods will let us know. So yeah, Baelor not above a little bit of gamesmanship to try to win, knowing that in a straight up fight they probably are at a significant disadvantage, given what you said about the level of skill on the other side. Now, we know that Daeron is gonna lay face down in the mud,
right? so they got one down.
They really are fighting it's like the Kingsguard, Maekar, Aerion, and then I mean, no one really knows what Stefan Fossaway is like capable of,
right? Exactly.
From a mechanical or like skill standpoint,
right? But so if Baelor can keep the Kingsguard busy, then it's really just Aerion and Maekar.
Yep.
And assumedly, Aerion will go for Dunk.
Yeah.
So that's gonna and Dunk's gonna have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it'll go great.
Yeah. And we will find out next time what happens after Baelor's plan. But I mean, looking at this, we touched on it already, but the theme that just continues to come up again and again and again is this idea of class and classism. And it's in such stark contrast in this section, the support for Dunk from the small folk and the knights who have either beef with Aerion or feel that Dunk is in the right and are willing to risk their lives to like protect that idea. And the knights and nobles who are not interested in getting involved if it doesn't mean, if it means being seen as maybe taking a stance against the crown or maybe disrespecting the structure and the hierarchy that they profit from directly. So rather than uphold their own knighthood and chivalry, they are happy to sit in the stands and watch whatever happens, even if it means this completely innocent person is straight up killed because they aren't willing to fight on his behalf.
Mm-hmm. It's such remarkably bad politics from the nobles.
Yeah.
It's because if you think about it, like there's the tourney grounds. The small folk and the nobles are like in the same area. So Dunk doing this, riding back and forth, being like, "We just need one more." Like, and
Yeah.
literally anyone, one more. Will any of you stand with me? The fact that we know the small folk are there for Dunk to support him.
Mhm.
And they're not hiding that fact. They're like talking about it, and they're talking to him and saying good luck. And people,
Yeah.
there was like a septon that praises him at some point. Like there's like
Yeah.
all different things like that happen, right? So it's not like a mystery.
Mhm.
They're looking over at their lords,
Yep.
who are doing nothing,
Yeah.
and not fighting for them.
Yeah.
And just remarkably bad politics, and not that they vote in Westeros or anything like that, but like
Sure.
you want the adoration of your small folk. You want your small folk to trust you and to think you're a good lord, because
Yeah.
then it's going to be easier to rule over them. And like loyalty does so much in these like feudal houses. So the stark contrast between how the two treat Dunk and between how we the reader know which side is correct.
Right.
Like we clearly know Dunk is in the right here.
Yeah.
You know, so like the small folk and the masses are on the just side, and
Yeah.
the lords and highborn are not. And I wonder if it means that classism is bad. Do you think it means maybe classism and feudalism are bad?
Yeah. Yeah. It's and the interesting thing too is when Lord Ashford sort of says, like, reminds Dunk that, well, no, if you don't find a seventh person, then you're just guilty and you have to be like punished as if you are guilty. And Dunk thinks to himself, guilty of loosening a tooth, and for that I must die.
Yep.
And that is like the reality for a poor person, is like, I'm guilty of essentially nothing, right? Like, well,
Mhm.
and he is guilty of nothing. He's guilty of protecting a completely innocent woman who is being attacked brutally by
Mhm.
a member of the nobility, and his crime was stopping that crime, like,
Yeah.
from occurring, right? So yeah, and that's we get Dunk's inner thoughts, but that is the experience of many in Westeros, of not having deference to the nobility, leading to like completely outsized punishments for
Mhm.
the poor.
Yeah. And this is obviously like in this universe is a lot more extreme.
Yeah,
But this is definitely a critique on our modern justice system in the United States,
big time.
because that is also what happens to a less severe degree sometimes, but sometimes to an equally severe degree.
Yeah,
So like that's like if you're reading this book and you're like, I'm horrified that this is happening, like be also horrified at the punitive justice system we have in the United States.
is happening right now.
Happening now.
Yeah.
Go become a defense attorney. Yay.
Right? It's a very it's a very easy parallel, unfortunately, to draw.
Mhm.
And yeah, in this case, I think the way that it's written is so puts it in, you really get these, especially in the way that we've divided it up, inadvertently, but you get these two sort of pictures right next to each other that are
Mhm.
just so blatantly calling out the hypocrisy of a nobility that values chivalry on its face, but doesn't actually move to support that chivalry as long as the person who is asking for it is not rich.
Right.
So
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
the worms. You wanted to talk about worms.
I do want to talk about worms. My life is haunted by worms. I can't escape the worms. So if anyone wants to hear more about worms in the Song of Ice and Fire, please go listen to my podcast with my friend Gretchen, House of Fire and Blood. because Gretchen is the one that put me onto this, and now snakes are manifesting in my house physically. Like I cannot escape the worm. George R. R. Martin, and I will talk about this in brief. George R. R. Martin uses like worm and snake imagery throughout all of his texts. Generally to mean stuff, usually to mean something about like the dangers of knowledge or the consumptive nature of knowledge.
Sure.
Or like society consuming. So the primary place we get worm imagery regularly is the white roots of the weirwood trees.
Yeah.
That the white roots are, and they're described oftentimes as being worms or snakes.
Yeah.
Throughout all of his texts, he uses white worms specifically to draw in these themes. So anyway, what caught my eye, there's a few worms in this section actually. As we were going through it, I noticed even more. In the very beginning, it describes tendrils of frogs were writhing along the ground like pale white snakes as Dunk made his way back to the lists. So, first of all, fantastic image.
Yeah.
And I'd have to probably sit and think about it more, but when we see the worm imagery in the story, it's generally in relationship to some kind of decay. Mm-hmm. And what we were just talking about is a societal kind of decay, when people who have power and can do something to help others refuse. Mm-hmm. And so I would posit that these things that separate people and draw people apart and undermine natural human empathy are a sign of societal decay. Elon Musk is a sign of societal decay.
Absolutely.
So the fact that like he's entering this ground that is infested with white worms just kind of caught me in that kind of way. Similarly, the Fossaway says, Raymond says about changing to green. Gosh, where is the line about when he changes?
Yeah, better to be.
Yeah, I fear I'm still not right, but better green than wormy.
Right.
Wormy is like literally a decomposing apple, right? Like literally something that's rotting. And there's a little bit of White Walker imagery too, where he's looking at. I'm sorry, I saw the line before.
Is it the Kingsguard?
The Kingsguard imagery, I don't know what to do with. I don't know if you have ideas about that.
With the black and white.
Yeah. I think there's something there. Oh, it was on the top of page 99 when it says Dunk wheeled thunder and raced back and forth before the tears of pale cold men.
Yeah.
There's some kind of like this death imagery, right? This death, this doom, this unstoppable force, which the White Walkers are as like a natural force, but also the Highborn are too lowborn. Right. In Westeros, right? Like they're just as dangerous.
Yeah.
It's probably more dangerous in Westeros right now. Highborns are probably more dangerous to lowborns than White Walkers are in Westeros. But that same kind of imagery of like the pale men, the pale cold men specifically, who are just there to harm you.
Yeah.
So there's these sort of images throughout the text. And anyway, I'm haunted by worms. I noticed it in this section. I thought I would mention it. If anyone's interested in more worms, listen to House of Fire and Blood. We talk about worms a surprising amount.
Yeah. I thought it was going to go the way of Rhea Targaryen, but that was because that's the.
Oh yeah, well she literally has worms in her.
Yeah.
But that's another example of one of the times when Martin uses like actual body horror. Who is that? It wasn't Arya. It was like it's like Arya. I forget
Arya, something like that.
Aerea or something.
I think so.
Something like that. For those who don't know, in Fire and Blood, she's a previous Targaryen who gets like literally infested with worms. Yeah. It's like one of his like few kind of body horror images. But yeah, that's like worms that consume her. Right. So there are things like this all throughout. There's a similar if you want to get like really into worms, there's like a similar kind of connection with like white worms and decay, the roots of the weirwood, roots of the weirwood like growing through people's bodies. We see that. And then arrows as a form of death, as a kind of extension of a root of a tree, since they're wooden. And a surprising number of Targaryens are killed by arrows. And so there's like a lot of these connections.
Yeah.
This is the thinking too hard about it section of the podcast, but I think it's interesting.
No, I mean, I don't think it's coincidence the amount that he uses it, because he is very thoughtful with his imagery. And while it is descriptive and evocative, or whatever of these, like of a very specific image, it is also, I don't think, coincidence that it's used as much as it is, and in the specific contexts that it is, where I think because it was only a couple, like with Dawn comes death or whatever, and then Dawn brings these tendrils of white snakes, right? And it's so, anyways, there's I think a lot.
And there's a lot of descriptions in the A Song of Ice and Fire books proper of like when you see corpses, there's a lot of white worms in corpses, which is like real. Like there's maggots in corpses, sure, but he doesn't say maggots. He'll say white worms.
Yeah.
And then you have characters called the white worm, and there's like these things pop up. And I agree. I think, but
the kindly man has, when he has his little skull glamour or whatever, he has the worm that crawls out of his eye socket.
He has the worms that, and Arya eats it because she's crazy.
Yeah.
Because she said this is cool, and I'm not like other girls. I'm going to eat this fake worm off your face. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. And then you have also, of course, the parallel of the fact that a worm and a wyrm, like a WYRM, is a type of dragon. So then you have like this kind of like magic connection as well, which is like a little bit more complicated. But I think judging by the pace at which George R. R. Martin writes, I think he is thinking very hard about every word he puts on the page.
Yeah.
So I feel comfortable assuming the words mean something.
Right.
You guys might think I'm crazy. If you think I'm crazy, comment it. It's totally fine. I absolutely could be crazy.
Well, speaking of the wormy apple, obviously we talked about the Fossaway betrayal, but there is something specific in this section about the fact that Steely Pate tells Dunk that the reason that people love you is because you're a knight who remembered your vows. And Stefan Fossaway is a knight who the vows never really meant anything, right? Like his word, he even says that his word is basically not worth anything, by saying, I no doubt I was sincere at the time. Meaning my oaths and whatever I say or promise or anything like that is not worth a thing. And this is where sort of and maybe it extends into themes, but essentially this is where the like what goes around comes around, where the small folk support Dunk. Dunk gets a bunch of people on his team by being a knight that remembered his vows, and Stefan Fossaway creates a rift in his house because he doesn't actually value the fact that he's like, well, I said that to a poor person. Like,
but we don't talk to the poorest. Like...
Yeah, my oaths would mean something if I was talking to a lord, and I've now sworn an oath to Arion that I will fight, which it like supersedes the oath that I swore to this random hedge knight.
And think about how much, like, I definitely think there's a what goes around comes around bit regarding the splitting of House Fossaway at this point in the long term. But in the short term, think about this from his point of view, from Stefan Fossaway's point of view. he goes and he's like, I'm leaving your team. Bye. I'm going to the prince. He's offered me a lordship. And like 15 minutes later, tops, the crown prince is on the other side.
Right. He's like, shit. Have I
like, the man who will be king.
Oh, that's the one thing this is missing is a scene of Stefan Fossaway being like, no, wait, I changed my mind. Like,
yeah. Like he's on the other side.
Raymond, he's trying to push Raymond like off of the team.
He's trying to steal the shield. Yeah, he's trying to steal it. He's like, no, I'm the green apple.
He's grabbing Lionel Baratheon's arm of like, don't knight him.
They should add that to the show.
Yeah. He just starts throwing like a fit.
Yeah.
But no, I do think yeah, the consequences of breaking oaths, and I think this is something that does come up, and again we sort of bring it back to the themes, but the idea that the nobility is totally fine, like they're totally fine making false or empty promises to lowborn people, because who's gonna call me on it? Like, it's my word against his. So if I said that I never said that, then nobody will believe him and it won't matter. Like, and that goes for any oath that's sworn or any promise that's made to a lowborn person in this world. Whereas the only oaths that people actually hold people to, or that we, you know, in these stories we know about, are oaths sworn to other nobles. Like, this house sworn to that house, this, you know, this person told this person, I will do this. And those hold weight because they're between noble houses, whereas this particular noble has no issue just completely breaking his oath. And but he's like, yeah, because the prince told me he'd give me a castle, so who cares?
Yeah, obviously. Like, and we know from like the series proper and a little bit here is too that the lords that do keep their oaths to small folk are seen as like amazing.
Yeah,
it's like, oh my god, the Starks. Oh my god, they're the best. They're the greatest. And it's like, just because they're keeping like basic promises, they're like doing the minimum.
They're like, oh my god,
like,
he said he was going to do that, and then he did it.
He said he would bring us all into Winterfell during the winter to keep us warm so we didn't freeze to death. And then we all went to Winterfell and did that. Like, it was great. As opposed to like the Greyjoys, who are like reaping along the coast of like their own islands and like the place they live. And it's like, yeah, they suck because they're like actively breaking the social contract.
Right.
That the peasants have no choice but to join.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thematically, this is full of the, you know, we've talked for many episodes now about the kindness begets kindness, and this is one that's very, I would say, near and dear for you. And this section is sort of the proof is in the pudding of Dunk has been cool for this book, and it is now it has now officially paid off.
It's a reaping what you've sown, but in a positive way.
Right.
You know, because what he's sown is like, he was like really chill to this bald kid he thought was like a flea bottom kid and like made him his squire. He was like nice to a handful of people at the tourney. You know, he was like cool with the crown prince. You know, he was just like genuinely good and like trying to do the right thing. And people have recognized that. And what a lovely theme to have in a book by George R.R. Martin, in a book where we do not normally get themes like this. I don't normally feel this warm and fuzzy reading something by Martin. But yeah, this is like the fruition of what Dunk has been unknowingly working towards, really.
Yeah. And so we've got the team. The team is set. Both teams are set, I guess. 7v7.
Yep.
And next time out, we get the beginning of the trial of the seven. I guess, what from this section do you want to see in the TV show, if and when that ever comes out, because HBO apparently doesn't ever want to talk about it.
Yeah, they never. We're doing all the advertising for them.
Yeah.
We should get some kind of payment. Come on,
Yes.
HBO. I mentioned before, definitely the scene with Dunk riding in front of the lords, but what did I actually put down? Because I had like so many I wanted. So what did I finally choose in my notes? Okay, that's fair. The entrance of Baelor Breakspear.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's got to be so epic.
Yeah.
And there's so many ways you could film that, especially if they want to include the confusion of Valar. I don't know that HBO would include that because that could, but depending on how the previous episodes were done, it could be just more confusing to the watcher.
Sure.
That to have that confusion for the character, like it would have to be set up properly.
Yeah.
But they could have such a cool intro of that. It'd be great.
Yeah.
And like the music, and like they have to use like the actual like Targaryen theme music or stuff, like not like weird random other stuff that's what they used to do in Game of Thrones.
Right.
But the bad show. So yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I'm like, give me Baelor in his coolest and definitely not last entrance onto the page. Give me that. That's what I want. What about you?
Yeah, I totally agree that I think like the Baelor moment needs to hit. And then I was thinking there was a tendency in the bad show, especially, of like named characters from the books being sort of nameless, faceless people when it came time like for the show of we'll just confuse people if we make this person like an actual person, so we'll just make them like, we'll say their name but they'll just be sort of like scenery. And Humphrey Harding, for me, like in the scene, needs to be one, recognizable as the person that Aerion tried to basically murder, like on the tourney field, and recognizable as like skilled knight who is strapped onto his horse with a broken leg, like to fight on Dunk's side. Because I think there is a weight to his inclusion in particular that just shows like a lot of the, I guess, justice of Dunk's cause, right? It's like this guy is willing to risk his life totally hobbled. And I mean, this is in a I guess maybe Milk of the Poppy or whatever.
He's got to be in pain. It's got to hurt like a bitch to have a broken. I've never had a broken bone. It must hurt terribly.
Insane pain. Yeah. And he's strapped onto a horse, like, which that he's going to feel his broken leg the whole time. Like every motion of that horse, he's going to feel. Yeah. So anyways, I just want it to be like, people recognize, oh shit, that's Humphrey Harding, who Aerion tried to kill. Like, right? Like, because not every character is going to be like that. And he doesn't get a ton of page time, but it's very impactful, I think, that he fights on Dunk's side. And I think it would be easy for it to just be like a guy in sort of the drab colors of, yep, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, this is the, I just want him to be an actual person in the show.
You're worried they're gonna Tower of Joy the fight.
Exactly. Like, don't give me like bullshit Arthur Dane, right? Like,
yes.
Like, we need, and maybe it goes across like Dunk's team. Like, all these characters just need to be like at the level. We need the black and yellow stripes on Beesbury.
Yes, my boy.
We need Lionel Baratheon to have a giant ass crown stag helmet and like and to be larger than life, all that sort of stuff. Like, I just think like there need to be actual personalities on Dunk's team.
I completely agree, and I think that is a risk HBO runs because we've seen them fail at that before.
Yeah.
It's very doable in the episodes preceding this to make these characters stand out, including the characters also on Aerion's side.
Yeah.
You can kind of conglomerate the Kingsguard.
Yeah, and George even does sort of.
Yeah.
Like, I think one of them one of them isn't even really in the book, like
Mhm.
because Dunk meets two of them,
Yeah.
Donald of Duskendale and Crakehall,
I forget. In like the very
whichever one.
beginning. Yeah,
But
he
they
meets them
are
briefly.
they are
Yeah. They're the
and they're
King's
like
Guard, so that's fine.
Swan is a Swan. No, I'm thinking of the main series. A Swan is
Mhm.
there is a Swan, a Sir Swan who fights in the tournament or whatever. But anyways,
Mhm.
like I do think you don't have to humanize, because George doesn't even really do it. Like, you don't have to
Mhm.
humanize Arion's side as much as you do need to humanize Dunk's side, because I think it's
Yes.
vital to the storytelling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like his Dunk side is unique enough. Like every character is like looks different
Yeah.
that you can do that, but they have to carry forward with that. You know, they have to because I could see like a poor script writer having it be that like Sir Humphrey is just killed that first day with Arion, and then they just plug in like generic knight number 3 to fill in. Like Breakspear shows up and he's like, and my boy Paul will fight with us, you know, and like that's it. So yeah, I completely agree. They need to focus in on making those characters like important.
Right.
You know, they are important. Dunk is
Yeah.
important. The story is important.
Story is important. And the themes are important.
And the themes are important.
No, I think that, and yeah, so the WWE entrance for Baylor Breakspear is what we need.
And from the left corner,
Yeah.
Baylor Breakspear. That's what
So
they say
yeah.
in wrestling, right? I don't know. Don't come for me. I
No,
don't know wrestling.
but I also don't really watch wrestling. It's been a million years. I just know the By God, like I know from the internet, By God is
Yeah.
Baylor Breakspear's music or whatever. You know, like that.
Nice.
When someone surprisingly enters a fight. So
Yeah. Fantastic.
well, next time out, we are reading
All right. So we are
pages.
picking up on 101 where we left off, and
Yeah,
we are going to. We are reading pages of this book. We are going to the break on page 108. That ends with a spoiler, but it's the break on page 108.
the break on page 108.
Because that's a spoiler. So
Yeah.
go read it.
Yeah.
You'll
And
know what it is when you read it.
I did well, I guess in a second I'll ask where else people can find you on the internet. But I did some shameless plugs for this show, and I was happy to be able to say that this is a spoiler-free podcast for the book. Like, we
Mhm.
are not spoiling the book as we read it. So
Mhm.
spoilers for the main show, but for the main series, main
Yeah.
show, whatever, bad show, House
Bad
of the
show.
Dragon.
Good show.
Good show. And then but yeah, it was cool for someone who has not read the books yet. They asked, like, I want to listen, but are there spoilers? No, there aren't. So you can gladly listen along and not have the book spoiled. So
Yeah.
anywho.
Completely.
So Belak, where else can people find you?
You can find me primarily on TikTok at Belok, Instagram at Belok, and the other podcast I do about Fire and Blood is House of Fire and Blood. I do with my friend Gretchen. We are deep into that book. I don't know, that book's around here somewhere. It's not going to be out for a few weeks, but we just recorded our episode on The God's Eye. It is 3 hours long. We had a lot of shit to say.
Yeah.
I am also on YouTube as Barely Functional B. I haven't posted anything for a while, but that's because I'm taking finals now for school. So we'll be back this summer. So that's where you guys can find me. What about you? Where can we find you?
Yep. Primarily on TikTok, Damon Bachfire. You can find me there shamelessly plugging this podcast. And ripping on John Connington most recently. So
Poor John Con.
Poor John Con.
The Fagon slander is just, he's a real prince. Why does no one believe?
It's I just read the Griffin Reborn chapter. I'm finally finishing A Dance with Dragons, and rereading that chapter, I was like, man, this guy is just about to ruin everything. Like, it's so crazy. Anyways, yeah, so you can find me primarily on TikTok, a little bit on Blue Sky, although not very much, if I'm being honest. And then, yeah, the YouTube stuff, like primarily doing this. I think similarly in the summer, I'll have a little bit more open up in terms of doing other things on YouTube. But yeah, for now, happy to be reading this. And I am grateful because I can't imagine like the jarring sort of going from reading Fire and Blood to reading Dunk and Egg is like the furthest departure in style.
I much prefer Dunk and Egg. Fire and Blood is strictly an academic procedure.
Yeah.
That's like I'm just reading it totally as like an academic, but Dunk and Egg is really, really much more fun.
As long as I surround myself with other scrolls and picture that I'm in some sort of den of the Citadel, then reading Fire and Blood becomes more.
Well, you know, our new headcanon that we just discussed in our most recent episode, because we had a friend on, Ashe came on, and he suggested this headcanon that mushroom in Fire and Blood obviously was not real, but that mushroom was actually the insert of the scribe who was writing the book for the Maester.
So he's just putting in little Easter eggs for himself.
Yeah, because the scribe hates the Maester, so he's putting in like embarrassing, sexy stories that the Maester doesn't know is going in there, just to embarrass him in front of the other Maesters.
That's so funny. Like the book gets published, and they're like, "What the fuck?"
I'm like, where did Maester Gilday put this shit in here? Oh my god, that guy's crazy. He's relying on mushroom? That's not a good source. Oh my goodness.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so the new headcanon adopted.
Yeah, well, thanks everybody for joining us for this episode. Hope you've enjoyed, and hope you're enjoying your read along of the Hedge Knight. And yeah, we'll be back next time to chat very, very serious battle.
Serious battle time.
And hopefully you will join us for that. But until then, hope everyone has a great week, and we'll see you later.
Bye.